All righty.
Where were you?
I don't know.
Handed those out.
I don't know. Like, huh? Not, not planning on that right now.
Good. Yeah. Good morning, Budget Committee members, and welcome to everyone. So over to you, Chair Steinbergy.
The Budget Committee for the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District and Urban Road Maintenance District will come to order. Do I need to do that again?
I would.
Okay. The committee will come to order for the Budget Committee for the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District and Urban Road Maintenance District. Clerk Moss, would you read the roll?
Yes, certainly, Mr. Chair. And just a reminder to everyone, if you hit the button on your microphone to turn your green light on, you're on, and if it's off, it's off. So just a reminder there. So,
Thank you.
Budget Committee member Bob Zaharsky.
Bob Zaharsky, present. Here.
Commissioner Fye.
Present.
Commissioner Snyder.
Here.
Budget Committee member Scott Hotruff.
Here.
Vice Chair Treese.
Here.
Chair Steinberg.
Here.
Commissioner Willie.
Here.
Budget Committee member Pragna Patel.
Here.
Budget Committee member Anthony Mills.
Here.
Chair Harrington.
Here.
All right, Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. It is the sheriff. Here comes the sheriff. Okay. Sheriff, we are ready for you.
Chair, if I might, I just want to thank all the Budget Committee members for serving and all of our staff. If anyone is interested to help keep your stomach at bay or to entice you, whatever you please, there's cherry pie over here. So please feel free to partake.
Thank you.
Breakfast pie.
That's what I'm talking about.
The end report.
Sheriff Massey, the floor is yours.
The floor is mine. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair, Committee. I really appreciate you having us here today. For those who don't know, I am Sheriff Caprice Massey. This is Under Sheriff John Cook, and we are here to talk about our Enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District budget proposal and break down a little bit about what that special district covers and how it benefits the entire Washington County. Maybe. Oh, that is not. Here we go. All right. The Enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District includes more densely populated areas that lie outside the cities and demand more police services than rural areas. The Washington County Sheriff's Office has provided these enhanced services in the district for more than 35 years. It was originally brought forward in 1987. I will admit that that is a year before I graduated high school. And this, I said what I said. And we have had continuous voter approval for over 35 years. The current ESPD was approved again in May of 2022 and will go through 2028. At the time of ESPD's formation, the 1 officer per 1,000 goal was generally recognized by the county's Public Safety Review Committee as a minimum service standard for law enforcement services in our unincorporated urban area. During the fiscal year 2013-14 through 2017-18 ESPD levy period, the board authorized an enhanced service level of 0.54 officer per 1,000 residents. And in May of 2022, the voters passed the levy at 67%. Like I mentioned, the ESPD provides law enforcement services throughout our urban unincorporated areas, but about 216,000 residents in those areas outside of our cities. So this includes the more densely populated urban areas lying outside the city, and they demand a little more police services than our rural areas. Those include areas like Aloha, Bull Mountain, which is where I live, Cedar Mills, Cooper Mountain, Metzger, Raleigh Hills, and there's a few more as well outside of those areas. Our ESPD and our general sheriff's office funding has 3 different funding sources that combine to maintain our core law enforcement services. Our law enforcement services across unincorporated Washington County are supported by the general fund, public safety, local option levy, and our ESPD. This slide reflects the percentage of officers per 1,000 residents commensurate with each funding source to maintain the goal of 1.08 officers per 1,000 in that urban unincorporated area and 0.54 in rural unincorporated Washington County. Urban areas require a higher level of deputies due to population. Our service level at 1.08 per 1,000 is well below the national average that supports the cities in our county and comparable urban areas nationwide. Due to constraints on the general fund, our officers per 1,000 have continued to erode, placing more burden on the special district and our public safety local option levy. So what does our ESPD fund? It provides 911 emergency response, deputies training, and those are prepared to respond to emergency and complex community issues within our urban areas. This increase, I wanted to note, that the levy rate was increased in May 2022 by 15 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. So beginning in July 23, it funded the district a little bit higher due to inflation and rising costs in population and things like that. This was the first funding increase since fiscal year 2018 and 19. That increase has allowed us to expand our services to help deputies connect people experiencing homelessness within the community, to help fund a public safety response to the increased overdose and abuse of Oxycontin, fentanyl, and other drugs in our community. It's funded advanced training in crisis intervention and de-escalation that our deputies use when working with individuals experiencing behavioral health crises. It ensures a rapid response to 911 calls in nearly half the time of the national average. And it is funding police service levels across the district to be similar with neighboring communities. I want to note here that we do historically, and we are committed to returning money back to the parent fund every year. Because of ESPD, it gives us the funding and the resources to maintain professional policing services in our district. What you have in front of here is just a snapshot of our person crimes and where we fall, not just against our local county cities, but also the state of Oregon and the nation overall. And so what you'll see here is that Washington County is our safest urban county in Oregon with a combined NIBRS rate, which is the data that we collect, with person felonies and property felonies. So you see our largest cities here being Beaverton and Hillsborough, and where they fall under assault, homicide, human trafficking, kidnapping, sex crimes, and child abuse. And then in the blue, you'll see the averages across the state of Oregon, and in the red, nationally. Washington County, I believe, based off of living and my experience, that we are a safe place to live and raise our family. But what I want to illustrate is that the data shows that Washington County is an incredibly safe place to live and to raise our families. We fall, all of us in Washington County, the cities included, far below the national average in this rate. Anything to add on that, Undersheriff? No. The next slide we have for you is that same snapshot as it relates to property crimes, and what falls within those are the arson, burglary, forgery, vandalism, motor vehicle theft, fraud. Again, what you will see is that the sheriff's office in those ESPD areas falls not just a little bit below our cities and our state and the country, but significantly lower in those areas. And the ESPD does so much to help us, especially with these felonies, the person felonies and the property felonies, have some really subject matter expert detectives that are leading the way to be the subject matter experts throughout our county and our state to help make sure that we maintain that safety throughout our county. Undersheriff, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good morning. This slide that you're looking at here explains the funds that ESPD, the taxes come into. It can be confusing sometimes in your budget book because as the taxes are collected, they come into the county into Fund 210, and that's what you'll see in the budget book. Then as it gets dispersed to the sheriff's office, it comes over to Fund 182. So when we're looking at our sheriff's office budget, we're looking at the Fund 182 numbers. And when the sheriff talked about returning money at the end of every year, that goes back into that parent fund 210 to hopefully keep our rate down for future levies. This graph shows the overall sheriff's budget. This year, our budget request is $188 million. 43 million of that is in district patrol. When we look at our patrol operations for the sheriff's office, you can see the blown out portion of the graph to the right. ESPD funds almost 60% of our patrol operations. When we look at how large the ESPD district is, it's really about a third of the county's population is being serviced by that. So ESPD is really an essential part of that policing service for about a third of our county's urban areas. This shows the breakdown of our ESPD request from Fund 182. This is a 12% request of an increase this year, and you can see where it's broken down between the personnel services, materials and services, the interdepartmental charges, and the capital outlay. Some of the driving factors for the increase are personnel costs. There are also increase in the indirect costs, and there's also increases in our vehicle purchases. ESPD runs differently than some of our other countywide budgets, and we actually purchase those vehicles outright at the end of their life rather than depreciate out the cost like we do in general fund. So when we have several vehicles are coming to the end of the life, we have to purchase those outright, and so that increases our cost for this request.
John, before you move on too much farther, the previous slide with the 3% PSU, what does PSU here stand for in red?
I believe that is, hang on one second.
Well, while he's looking that up, let me, I should have started with this, but sort of as a point of order, I think the best way to be recognized when someone asks questions is to tip your card up so that I can recognize you and we can make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak. Sorry for not mentioning that at the beginning.
Thank you. It is our professional services line item, and Mr. Sauer, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add to that.
No, just, yeah, next year we need to make sure we put the verbiage in the slide. So,
thank you.
Chair, if I might ask, does this slide match up with a page number in the budget? Does anybody know?
Which slide, Charity?
There aren't even any slide numbers on this slide. The prior one that has the graph that, yep. Is there a budget page number that goes along with this slide?
469 is the closest. That's what I was actually comparing the numbers. And
Okay, so it may have the PSU spelled out there. That's what I was trying to get at. Thank you.
if I may, the funds that they're talking about are Fund 182, which are on pages
389.
do you have the page number there?
I don't have that number.
Okay, I'll have to find that.
The PSU actually should read PSD, and it's our professional standards division. So think of like our internal affairs and those areas.
yeah, because I didn't see a line that said PSU, but I think I need to look.
That may be on page 138 for Fund 182.
Thank you.
216.
216, okay, thank you. Any other questions on these graphs?
Seeing none?
Okay, moving along. Because ESPD is such a large portion of the policing across Washington County, their services also are incorporated into several of our interagency teams, just as we see participation from some of our neighboring municipalities. ESPD does encompass a lot of those urban areas, and so they're providing service to a lot of the, in this example, drug trafficking that occurs throughout Washington County. When we staff our interagency teams, it's staffed with deputies from our ESPD, as well as from general fund and local option levy. The ESPD backbone is essential for us to be able to provide some of these services, to have that large-scale police footprint. The West Side Interagency Narcotics Team is predominantly made up from members of the Washington County Sheriff's Office, but we also have partnerships with Beaverton and Hillsborough Police. It also contains members of the Oregon National Guard and the FBI. We have a strong partnership with the Department of Drug Enforcement Administration and Homeland Security. Last year in 2024 alone, this team seized over 4,000 pounds of heroin that was intended to come to the streets of Washington County. They also seized over 600 pounds of methamphetamine and about 16 pounds of cocaine. One of the key numbers that we really look at that's that this team has seized is last year they seized about 25,000 fentanyl pills. That seems like a lot, but what is really staggering is in the last 3 years, they seized about 1.39 million fentanyl pills that were destined to come to the streets of Washington County. When we know that one pill can kill, we don't not know how many lives were saved by all of those seizures. But this cooperation between ESPD, our other local jurisdictions, and the surrounding areas really makes Washington County a safer community, like the sheriff mentioned. In addition to seizing those large-scale narcotic trafficking, the team also tracks Narcan deployments. Most of our police officers throughout Washington County and in ESPD carry Narcan. What we have seen is the deployments of Narcan have actually gone down in the last year or two, which is good. That does not mean the overdoses have gone down. What we believe is that Narcan is making its way out of the community so more users have it readily available. But our deputies still do carry that in the ESPD areas to make sure that we can provide that life safety service to community members when needed. Another recent team that was formed here within the last year in Washington County is the Community Violence Reduction Team. We saw throughout ESPD and the surrounding communities an increase in some violent crimes, and we wanted to be on the forefront of ensuring that we address those issues. This team is a partnership with the Sheriff's Office, Beaverton and Hillsborough, focusing in those urban areas mainly where a lot of those crimes are occurring. And we are seizing firearms off the streets on a regular basis since this team was formed. The next thing that ESPD does, because of our economies of scale and our depth of the bench because of the service district, we're able to ensure that our deputies receive the highest level of training. This is so essential to make sure that we're providing professional police services across Washington County and in those ESPD areas. By having those services available, we're able to ensure that our deputies are highly trained in de-escalation, in tactics, and have the up-to-date tools to make sure that they can resolve situations peacefully. The sheriff had mentioned some of our services. This is an example of our mental health response team. Even though that is a countywide team, it is supported by our Enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District, as they're also serving throughout that area, which is one of the larger areas in the urban unincorporated area and the urban areas of Washington County. Over to you, Sheriff.
All right. One of the things I want to touch on before I dig into our partnership with the community, which really is our foundational function that helps mitigate violent crime, especially because we're building trust to such a degree, is just a small perspective on that team that the undersheriff just referenced, that gun violence reduction team. They were just formed in October of 24, and we developed this presentation just a few weeks ago as we've been working on it, and there had been 35 firearms seized at that time. Since then, with updated numbers last night, we're at 100. And so that's in large part because they had a significant seizure last week of over 50 firearms. And but when you think about it, we're talking about 7 months of work and directed work toward this. And I know that we can't quantify a negative, but I have to believe that the lives saved because of that interdiction effort is significant, especially when we're talking about a van full of firearms. So I just want to share the updated data since we made this presentation. Partnering with the community is part of what we do every single day in 1,000 different ways, the least of which allows us to build the kind of trust that makes people want to call us when they're in crisis or when they're experiencing their worst day. Because I'm sure it's no secret to anyone around here that right now we have historically marginalized communities who are not sure if they can call us and whether or not they will be able to maintain their residency in our county. And so we have elevated our efforts over the course of the last year to reach out to the communities that need us the most. And we are leveraging those partnerships and building trust in a way that I think is going to help ensure we have a livable, safe community. We collaborate with our local businesses on initiatives like Shop with a Cop and with the schools because they're the ones who know what their students need and who's experiencing houselessness or food insecurity. And we are able to respond with those community partnerships who are investing in those programs to make sure that kids actually get to have something for their holidays and build relationships with public safety officers and law enforcement when we're not actually fulfilling our primary function of law enforcement. And then working with community groups and churches, and one example of that is the Aloha Safe Rest Pods, where we were able to go in together and make sure that it is as safe as humanly possible while also providing those resources to our community. And then last but not least, we are all in the community, just bringing people in and showing up in ways that they want us to show up to make them feel safe and to answer all the questions that they just aren't sure about, and making sure that we're available to them in any way possible. With that, I would like to open it up for questions. But first, I would like to share just a snapshot of the few people that you see in this slide. Corporal Aiken is who you'll see with his new canine Puddles. That puppy is 2 years old, and she actually got second place in the canine trials this past Saturday. She is our most enthusiastic and most high energy of all of them right now, but they are doing incredible work in our community. Deputy Gonzalez actually came from Virginia Garcia and is in the National Guard, and she's now serving in the jail as a jail deputy and making just great relationships and strides. She's bilingual, and she is allowing us to serve our community in ways that I simply can't do. Deputy Cooley, who you see looking oh so serious next to his car, was just awarded the 2024 Oregon DUI Officer of the Year, arresting 385 impaired drivers and conducting over 2,000 traffic stops. And so again, I'll lead back to the not being able to quantify a negative, but taking 385 impaired drivers off the road, I have to believe saves countless injury and potential lives. And then lastly, we have Deputy Yoshimura, who is serving as a school resource officer at Westview, and she was recently nominated for the Public Safety Excellence Award by the Beaverton Area Chamber and is doing great things, making those connections and providing critical resources to our students in schools. And so with that, I want to thank you for giving us time and energy this morning and open it up for any questions you might have of us.
Thank you very much, Sheriff. I think first up was Commissioner Snyder.
There you go.
Thank you. Just a quick question. This was mentioned, and I didn't get my question in earlier when you brought it up, so I'm going to ask now. Can you explain, Undersheriff, you made a comment about how the ESPD purchases vehicles outright, and there's some distinction between, I don't know if that's for accounting reasons or if there's actual operational reasons or what the reasoning is, but I'd at least like to understand it.
Thank you, Commissioner. I do not know the why behind that. I do know because it is a special service district, it is ran differently than our other funds, and I could maybe turn it over to
Say, Mr. Steyer?
Yeah, to see if he has the why behind that.
Why would you say the ESPD vehicles are purchased through a fleet program? So it's a fleet replacement program, same program the other departments use. It's just the funding is coming through ESPD for those vehicles.
But why are they purchased outright instead of being sold? Like, is this just an accounting thing? Or is there an actual operational difference?
If there's new vehicles, they'll be purchased outright. If they're replacements, there are replacements. So maybe I'm not understanding.
Well, there was a comment made, and maybe I just am misunderstanding the comment, but there's a comment made by the undersheriff that with vehicles purchased outside the ESPD, they're sort of depreciated and disposed of, and in the ESPD, they're purchased outright. Maybe that's a behind-the-scenes accounting thing, or if it means something really different, I'd like to understand it.
It sounded weird.
Right. I don't think it means something different. It might just be the verbiage.
Okay, thank you.
It all runs through the fleet program.
Okay, they're all
Yes.
financially managed the same way.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will add that 100% of the fleet vehicles are not ran through depreciation. There is an upfitting cost that either the district needs to pay, or if they're in the general fund or public safety would need to pay. And so that's the upfitting of a vehicle to make it a police deputy vehicle. And the reason that is not included in the depreciation cost is because that equipment changes quite frequently. It doesn't meet the cash value that an actual vehicle needs to.
Thank you. I think next up, Commissioner Treese.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I just have a question on slide number, not sure if it's the graph about ESPD supports safe communities, and then the follow-on graph about, one is about person crimes and the other is about property crimes. And it was interesting to me that Washington County's low on both, but when you look at the property crimes, Oregon and Beaverton Hillsborough are above national averages in the property crimes. Can you speak to that in converse to the fact that on the person crimes, all of our communities are below national averages?
I cannot, actually, for
Okay.
them. We take the data from NIBRS, which is reported to the FBI, but I don't know, I probably couldn't speak to why in those specific cities they are seeing an increase, but it's definitely, those are questions I can ask.
One
of
thing
our
I can
leadership.
add.
Go ahead.
One thing that we do see is in some of the more dense downtown areas, they do see increased criminal activity.
Is that shoplifting and
Some of those property
yeah.
crimes, yes. And
Yep.
so in some of our ESPD areas, we don't have those city centers, so to speak. It is more of the neighborhoods. And so
Okay.
we might not see some of those same density issues that some of the other municipalities see.
Okay, thank you.
Could I ask for a point of clarification on this? This is recording the number of arrests for those incidents, correct? Or is this the actual just people calling 911 and reporting?
These are reported crimes as we fill out our police reports. It's taking those reports and then sending that information through to the FBI.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's very helpful. And thank you. By the way, thank you for the presentation. It was really good.
Yeah, I can't read your sign.
Proud of you.
Proud of you.
I have a question on the increased 12% budget on the patrol operations. Is that going towards the one city full headcount, or like what is that going towards?
You can reference what page you're looking on, it would help the budget committee members.
And I don't think you're, oh, it's on.
Well, on the slides, it's this page. I don't know what this is, but this is District Patrol Fund page.
This page right here.
Yes, and from the 2024 to 2025, there is a 12% increase, and that 12% is called out on page 217 of the big budget here. And there is a little explanation there too, but I'm guessing it goes towards the 1 FTE increase. But I'm just trying to understand, like, where does that increase go towards?
So some of the increase in personnel costs are the additional FTEs that come in this fiscal year, in addition to some of the increased costs of personnel.
Training and,
Just healthcare, PERS,
okay,
some of those costs.
supporting the employees, okay.
Okay, thank you.
It
Commissioner,
isn't,
I'm sorry.
but point of clarification, isn't the 234 and the 38 million, that's referring to the revenue that's coming in, which, as noted, there was the increase in the rate. So,
Which 234 you're looking at?
so you were on page 217.
Yeah. I'm looking
And-
at the top of 217, all the way on the top.
Patrol operations.
Patrol operations.
Oh, I was looking at the 38 and the 43 that was over in revenue.
I
Yeah,
think they
it
are the
matches-
same
they're the
numbers.
same.
They're the
Yeah.
same numbers, they're just
The revenue
classified
and
as.
expenditure matches. So I was picking up on the point under budget analysis, that one reason why there was that 12% increase was because the levy rate changed from 0.83, or 2.83 from 0.64. This was the new.
That's, yeah,
with the
that's
new
correct.
levy
Okay,
rate.
I
Got it.
see it, right.
Yeah.
I see it in the explanation. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, good point. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you very much. Member Bob, I can't pronounce your last name any better than you can probably pronounce mine, so my first name.
I've been to Poland and Russia, and quite honestly, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right either. So I'm good for anything. Start with the ESPD service levels that you had there. What I'm seeing in the graph, that's on the second page of your handout. There you go. What I'm seeing in the graph is the amount of contribution from the general fund appears to be dropping every year, made up by the SPD budget. That's wrong to me. That's going in the wrong direction. If we continue to do that, you continue to support the SPD at the point where the SPD is providing all of the service for the SPD district and none out of the regular general fund. So I have a real issue with that one.
Can I provide a bit of clarification to that, Chair? So you are absolutely right. There's more pressure being placed on the ESPD levy. There's more pressure being placed on the public safety levy. Because the general fund continues, the expenditures are outpacing our revenues, even as we've entered into year 5 of budget cuts. So that means if the general fund is compressed, other sources of revenue need to pick up whatever that capacity is to maintain the current level of service. So you are absolutely pointing out the reality of what's happening, not only for this budget committee for ESPD, it is also the reality for the public safety levy.
Right. And that's an issue I have with it, is going in the wrong direction. Yes, I realize the total amount of pie of the budget is cut. How it's cut is what I have an issue with. This is the wrong trend for public safety. So I just want to go on the record of that.
So just a quick question. What was the national average? You mentioned that we are below the 1.08, 1.01 is below national. What's the national rate?
I don't know of an exact Yeah, national average, like for all police departments, every police agency is staffed differently, but you will see with most municipal police agencies in urban areas, they're staffed at a much higher level than one officer per thousand. Some, even in the local area, will be like 1.5 officers per thousand up to 2.
Thank you.
The other part of the question is, I noticed there was either 3 or 4 positions that were given up within the jail. That giving up positions is a short-term fix to a long-term disaster. The positions in the jail currently, my understanding is we are doing mandatory overtime. And because of that mandatory overtime, we've lost people to other departments. They've simply gotten away and left. The replacement of either given positions or those who leave, it takes a year of training before they're even allowed to go into the jail and do work. That's quite a comeback for cutting positions, greater than transferring a workforce classified member from one department to another, or from taken from Washington County and hire them into the sheriff's department. These are positions that are both in traffic, patrol, and also the jail. So that's another real concern I have. That's in terms of the commissioners and how you divide that budget, because we don't have a real say-so today about that restructuring. I only see the ESPD and the urban road maintenance. I can't see or don't see, I'm not supposed to be looking at the general budget, but I would be trimming that one and some of the services to make sure we don't get on the road long-term for patrol. Last question. For this standing budget, the way it's approached, both undersheriff and sheriff, are you happy with it? Can you live with it?
Those are 2 very different questions.
Yes, they are.
I'll answer the first one first. I'm not happy with it. Of course I'm not happy with it, because it's going to be a decrease in positions providing the critical public safety needs for Washington County. Can we live with it? We will live with it. I will say what I've said to everyone who will listen. I'm grateful that we will not be laying off actual people. They are vacant positions, and it's not sustainable. And I know there will come a time when I will need to ask for those positions. So we will live with it. And we will continue to provide the extraordinary professional public safety service that our community deserves and demands from us. Go ahead.
If I could add to that, Sheriff, when we speak specifically about the ESPD budget, I would tell you we are happy with that as well. We are happy that ESPD is there. It is able to grow as the district grows in its portion, and it has been funded, again, like the Sheriff said, for over 35 years to make sure that we maintain those professional police services within the district. One follow-up piece, our officers per thousand, the national average is 2.4. So we are well below that.
So just as a point of order, I think the jail budget is separate from our committee's jurisdiction, but appreciate your comments nevertheless. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think next up was Member Mills.
Thank you, Chair. I have a comment and a couple of very quick questions. My comment, and of course, I think next year you'll have numbers for your slides for our benefit. This one with the chart with the different lines, since the United States is the entire United States, including a lot of rural areas with low crime being reported, I think that's why that's going to show lower than Beaverton and Hillsborough, which are urban areas. So that makes sense. My questions, what's the origin of the fentanyl? Do you know that's been obtained?
Yeah, most of the fentanyl is coming in from our southern borders.
Okay.
And the agents making them coming in from China. The things that.
So it's being made in China and coming through the southern border, is that your understanding?
Precursors.
The precursors are coming in from China and being made southern border.
Okay. On mental health issues, it's great to see anecdotally and from the news, the lack of people being killed in police interactions, which seemed to be par for course in past a long time ago. Have there been any deaths at the hands of Washington County deputies in the last couple of years that you know of?
The last critical incident we had, that might have been our tactical team.
Yeah, we have had a couple critical incidents that involve shootings with our
Okay.
tactical team.
Okay.
I can think of one in Washington County. It was not in the ESPD district, and another one that was in a neighboring county when we were assisting them.
Okay.
I cannot recall any recently in the ESPD
Okay.
and the unincorporated areas.
Okay. But I assume that those were probably understandable. There was something going on. It wasn't, so there haven't been any mentally ill people that have lost their lives recently in interactions.
I cannot think of any. I will tell you, when we look at our use of force data for both our tactical team, which deals with some of the most violent folks with weapons,
Yeah.
it is well below national averages. When we look at our mental health response team, who are dealing with community members with experiencing mental health crisis, their use of force is far below national averages as well. So the averages that we're seeing in their use of force are so small, it's staggering. And that's really, again, because of the tools, the tactics, and the training that we arm them with, so they can de-escalate situations and bring them to peaceful resolution.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And then the last one, the origin of the firearms that have been confiscated, are they American or are they coming from other countries? Do you know?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Undersheriff, do you have?
I do not know that.
They're investigating, especially the community violence reduction team that we were referencing as it relates specifically to those firearms. They've only been up and running for 7 months, and so that's part of their long-term investigation is where are they coming from and how are they getting here?
Yeah, okay. Oh, one last thing. Have there been any changes to laws that have impacted it as far as stopping motor vehicles that have impacted your ability to do what you would otherwise want to do as far as?
Not over the past year, but if we go back a little ways, there have definitely been restrictions placed on some of our, what's considered probable cause to pull a vehicle over. And so we have, as a result, had just a few fewer stops or needed more to pull someone over than we did before.
Okay. I mean, certainly I don't want people being stopped without good reason, but it also seems like so many serial killers and other people have been caught because of traffic stops, and then it turns in, oh, they're wanted for something else. So thank you very much. I appreciate, I mean, this county has a very good reputation as far as our law enforcement compared to so many other places throughout the United States and throughout the world, and we really appreciate it. And I know that, people, like you say, people interact with you on the worst day of their lives, and they're usually not thanking you on better days, but I'd like to extend that thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Just reminding the committee, we are about out of time, but nevertheless, Commissioner Fye, you're deferring to Member Bob. Okay.
That were happening.
Bob Zarowski.
I can hold my comment.
Okay.
Bob Zarowski again, following up to the question there about the firearms that were seized. Were they legal firearms or were they handmade illegal firearms? It's hard to tell right now whether they're stolen or not, but did they have serial numbers on it or were they unserialed?
I do not know if they seized any of the ghost guns that were manufactured. I don't have that information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions, and based on the schedule, we need to be wrapping up. Sheriff, Undersheriff, thank you very much for your presence and your presentation and keeping us all safe, especially on Bull Mountain.
I see you. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate this. And please know that if there are additional questions later that you'd like to send in an email, I'm happy to respond to them.
Thank you very much.
Just for clarification, Chair, if I understand it, understand the agenda, though it's not in front of me, we will be having a joint public hearing on the ESPD URMD budgets at 10:40 after public comment, and then hopefully we'll be adopting the budget.
That's my understanding also.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up is the Urban Road Maintenance District presentation. I see Mr. Roberts' name listed here, but I have a feeling it's going to be someone else. Not seeing Mr. Roberts. Yes. This would be Sherry Gray
It will be Sherry Gray and Todd Watkins.
and Todd Watkins. Okay. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning.
I always,
Yes.
You did very well in your absence recently at work session, so.
I'm glad to hear it. Good job.
My first rodeo.
I always feel like following the ESPD presentation, you know, public safety is sometimes an exciting thing and street maintenance is maybe not. So I feel like maybe I should offer a cup of coffee to everybody to wake up for the presentation. So for those who don't know me, my name is Sherry Gray, and this is Todd Watkins. I'm the coordinator for the Urban Road Maintenance District. Todd is division manager for LUT operations. And we're here today to talk to you about the URMD, what it does, and how it's funded, and what is so important about it. So what is the URMD? The Urban Road Maintenance District is a county service district. It serves approximately 216,000 people. The assessment on the URMD is just under a quarter per $1/4 per $1,000 of revenue, or $1,000 of value, and $6.6 million was collected in the last fiscal year. There are nearly 70,000 tax lots in the URMD, and it serves almost all of the urban unincorporated area, so everything within the urban growth boundary that is not a city. The primary mandate for URMD is street maintenance of roads that are not arterials or collectors. This ensures, so the URMD was founded in order to ensure that these smaller streets received the maintenance that they needed and didn't fall into disrepair. As I said, URMD has approximately 216,000 population. It's higher than Salem and would be second largest in the state if it were a city, just under. The services are funded, as I said, by a district property tax assessment of just under 25 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. URMD is governed by Washington County Board of Commissioners, who also serves as its board of directors. And the Washington County LUT Department provides oversight and services for URMD through an IGA with the county, or with the URMD, rather. URMD does not hire staff, does not have equipment, and all work performed on behalf of the URMD is done by contract or agreement. The URMDAC, Urban Road Maintenance District Advisory Committee, is a board-appointed body that helps guide the programs and services URMD provides. Chair Steinbrugge is also the chair for URMDAC. Commissioner Treese is our ex officio commissioner, or member. URMDAC has a 9-member roster. Each member can serve up to 2 terms and must live within the district. URMDAC members are committed to the support of URMD residents and the prudent use of URMD funds. You know what, going back, I should talk a little bit about our programs, and we'll go into detail. But URMD primarily, the primary purpose for URMD is road maintenance, street maintenance, But we also respond to service requests from the community. And there is a traffic calming program titled the Neighborhood Streets Program. And then we also have a sidewalk repair grant program to assist some of our community members. As stated in the prior slide, street maintenance is ERMD's primary purpose. Washington County actively manages the street assets in the district, including pavement condition. The two major impacts on street pavement are weathering and utility cuts. We regularly assess the condition of street pavement in the district using PCI, or Pavement Condition Index, with a PCI of 100 being perfect or brand new. We select the most cost-effective pavement maintenance techniques to address identified needs or deficiencies. The photo here on the upper left shows a slurry seal treatment. It consists of a thin coat of emulsion and aggregate material applied on top of the pavement. With slurry seal treatment, 6 to 12 points are added to the street's PCI and 7 to 10 years extended to its life. The photo on the lower right shows a fresh overlay treatment. With overlay, the PCI is reset to 100. This treatment can add 15 to 25 years to the life of a street. Both treatments are contracted out to the lowest qualified bidder to ensure best possible value. This also helps to sustain local contracting companies and jobs. Typically, in the past, we alternate between slurry seal and overlay treatments annually. However, starting this coming year, both treatments will be performed each year. This uptick in pavement maintenance treatments will ensure that pavement maintenance conditions do not fall below the district-wide average target of 71 PCI. 75. It even says 75. In my head, I just said 71, which is a good category. For fiscal year 25-26, we are planning slurry seal maintenance for 24 miles and overlay treatments for 4 miles of urban locals and neighborhood routes within ERMD. This chart also depicts projected pavement treatments for FY 26-27 through 28-29. The pavement of ERMD-eligible roads over the last few years has been maintained in a very good condition, near 85. A district-wide service level target PCI of 75 was recommended by ERMDOC and adopted by the board in 2011. Here's just a slide to give an idea of just how much costs have increased for street maintenance. Slurry seal costs have increased 45% in the last 4 years, from 2020 to 2024, and overlay has more than doubled in the same period.
Those are years on the left side.
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
On
Yeah, so it should be years.
yes, on the bottom it should be 2020 to 2024. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, it's crazy. But what hasn't? Service requests. We receive calls and web form submissions from the public notifying us when something on ERMD streets needs attention. These are referred to as service requests. As we're still within fiscal year 24-25 right now, the most recent full year of data we can look at is the last fiscal year, 23-24. Vegetation made up 29% of all service requests and is consistently the most frequent request. The potential hazard category is for quicker response requests and includes debris in the road, snow and ice removal, landslides, tree down, law enforcement requests for traffic control, and more. Our road crews respond to service requests as quickly and efficiently as possible. With the high volume of requests received, our target is 30 days to complete, depending on the course of treatment. I I feel like I'm just moving through this very quickly, so if anyone has questions, please.
Do you want questions in between?
I'm happy to answer
All right.
between. or-
Commissioner Snyder?
Yeah, I guess I want to go briefly to discuss the target from 2011 of the PCI of 75. All the work I've done previously in the public sector in this space tells me, has taught me that a PCI of 81 is the most efficient and cheapest thing to own over the long term. So if that target has really not been reevaluated since 2011, or maybe it's been reevaluated and reinforced, I would recommend, and maybe it's not today, I don't know that this is a policy decision for the budget committee, but I would encourage a reevaluation of that target and whether that's truly the right target. I'm glad to hear it sounds like the average right now is 85. Is that what you said earlier in the presentation?
The average for the past few years has been 85. It is declining and heading towards 75 at this point.
Okay, so then this sounds like a super important conversation that should be happening at some point. And I just, like, from my perspective, I want the lowest cost of ownership, keeping something in as good a condition as it can be in without overspending. And I think that means trying to thread the needle around the 81 PCI number. So just making a comment there from the big picture policy perspective.
And it's interesting comment because when ERMD actually had its audit done back in the late 2000s, it was
2009.
yeah. And the PCI at the time was 83, and the auditor at the time said the PCI was too high. And so, and we were spending about $1.5 million a year at that point in time annually.
And what year were you saying that was? 2008. Okay. I mean, I think the part of also what has changed too is like how much things cost, what is efficient then versus now, et cetera. So that's interesting. So
and the thing to remember too is that 75 is an overall network.
Sure.
On an individual road, and we actively manage our pavements so that we do find that sweet spot on where the best time and the best options are for the road. As Sherry mentioned, we have a slurry seal and we have an overlay program that we employ. We have what's called the 10-10-10 model. So we do slurry seals about every 10 years, and then we do an overlay after the second one. So over a 30-year window, we have 3 treatments. And again, we monitor to that actively. 25% of our roads are evaluated annually as far as physically being inspected. So we know exactly where they're going to be. And we've been managing this PCI now since the inception of the Bike and Ped program to be able to maximize not only the pavement condition, but also the other improvements we've been able to do in the district. So it's there's a lot of moving parts there.
I would also commend both the way that this work's been done, but also the fact that you're using slurry seal and overlay, which means you, at least again from my past experience, you're not having to do rebuilds, which are the absolute most expensive, and you don't even, like, you're approaching this in a way that it looks like you don't typically have to do those. Those would be 3 times as much as an overlay, I think, of just from past experience, just very costly.
Yeah, so reconstructions historically are about 4 times as much as maintenance. That's if you look at the numbers over.
Yeah. So good work. I do think the target PCI should be reevaluated and making sure that is truly the long-term lowest cost of ownership. At least that's what I think the rate, whether it's 81 or not, the lowest cost of long-term ownership in good condition is what we should be aiming for, most efficient.
So I'm going to use my chair privilege to interject a comment here, and I have a very soft spot in my heart for maintenance, so I'm very happy to hear your attention to that, Commissioner. I think I would also point out, and correct me if I'm wrong, that what I've learned through my service on ERMDAC is that PCI target is actually a Board of Commissioners established target. So the board can go back certainly and revisit that And more resources would clearly be needed to move that back up.
I would say, just to echo on your comments, Commissioner, was wondering what the weight of vehicles that's changed over the last 15, 20 years, how that would relate to the PCI number. Presumably, what a 75 would decline to over time was not necessarily what a 75 would decline now with heavier vehicles.
Yeah, so the locals, urban locals that we see within the district don't tend to see the kind of traffic that you would see on the major system with the RTOs and the collectors. With those, we are seeing more of the larger vehicles, especially all the construction. Now, what ends up happening is these larger trucks still have the axle weights that meet the same loading. It's about 20,000 pounds per axle, but they end up putting a lot more axles on a truck. And so when that happens, you get this point loading that occurs.
Yep.
We see this mostly on our bridges because now all of a sudden you have a structure that's receiving this versus a road that's spread out. So we don't see the traffic as being as much of an issue on the locals. It's the weathering and the utility cuts. Those are the two big things. Because when you cut a road, even if you seal it, you're still going to get water penetrating into that. And then once the base gets wet, then that's where you start getting potholes and other deteriorations.
Freeze thaw, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, we don't get the freeze thaw like the Midwest does. We don't have those hard freezes. The Midwest has like 5 seasons because there is that thawing that happens in the spring. So we don't get that. Again, the weathering and the utility cuts, those are the two big things.
And then also ask one more minor question. Since I got called out in the slide as your single pavement marking request for URMNET, it seems that you only do pavement marking changes in the summertime, warmer months. And I wasn't sure how the technology piece of that. I had to wait 8 months for a warm day to open up. So I didn't know if that.
Well, there's two reasons for that. The equipment. So when the reflective, it's a button, we call them buttons, the reflective markers. Those are placed with an adhesive, and it's a special adhesive that's hot when it comes out.
Sure.
Kettle, and so that has to be warmed. And so to do like a single area, to mobilize that equipment, plus it gets winterized, and so yeah, we only do it during the summer. And then also you want the pavement to be dry, you put that down. So it is a summertime type of. Same thing with striping.
Yeah.
The striping is a water-based stripe or a paint, but it has to be dry, just like painting a house.
Yeah, it seemed like there's cold regions throughout the world, and they seem to stripe and paint year round. I figured, hey, maybe we can use that, but I suppose not. Okay.
Well, we have what are called stick and stomps, which are these little adhesive tabs that we can put down temporarily, but those are very, very temporary. Yeah, striping, pavement markings, stencils or legends, the arrows and the bike marker, the bike lanes, those all happen at the in the warm weather.
Okay. Thank you.
Member Bob.
Thank you. Question on, can you explain vegetation, why that's such a large amount of requests?
Yeah, so vegetation, that can be any number of things. It could be what we call sight distance. So at a corner, someone trying to see around a curve. It could be someone's driveway. So someone's trying to plow their driveway. There could be vegetation that's growing. It could be signs. So if a sign is blocked by branches that are hanging down, that'll be considered vegetation. So those are the primary elements that get a vegetation call. The other thing we get are we get a lot of calls from the school districts for low-hanging branches for their buses. And so in the fall, after the spring and the summer, things have grown, and then now the school buses come through with their routes and branches. So then we'll go in and trim those areas.
Commissioner Willie.
Well, I'm just curious about the formation of this and the service district itself. So if you go back to what is like the second slide that showed the district, when is that, how long has it been since we really reevaluated what this district should look like? Population has significantly changed. And so the yellow areas are the unincorporated areas, but not part of the URMD. So there's nobody living there.
Right. Yeah, so the district is everything inside of the urban growth boundary that's not within a city. So if it's in a city, then a road is not part of ERMD. And when it was formed because the road fund at the time could not support the major system on the county-wide systems of the ARCHOs and the collectors and the locals. And over time, with the development, there's been a balance of some expansion of the UGB, some new developments that are occurring, and then there's annexation happening. So we have roads that are adding to the system and then going away from the system all the time. And so we don't do any sort of analysis as far as the district itself, as far as should it be or shouldn't it be. We just manage what's its growth and its decline just happens based on, again, development and annexations. Those are the two things that dictate how things change.
Well, no, I just thought it was interesting that, because the green boxes are, primarily in District 2, I see that in the middle there, but still, the yellow boxes are kind of scattered all over the place, and then that little dinky green thing, so it just seems like, it doesn't seem like there's any rhyme or reason as to if you're in or if you're not, but certainly this is a great program, and then so the second question to this is, I think it's 25 cents per thousand. When's the last time that was evaluated?
So,
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt. Todd, can you get a little closer to the mic? Thank you.
I've never been told I have to speak louder. Is that better? Okay. So, and I always get this confused, so have to remind me, is it Measure 5 or 50 that took the tax rules and then made it part of the permanent, or it made the levies and put them part of the permanent tax rule? Because when the district was first formed, it was 36 cents per thousand. And then it got reduced to 25 cents per thousand when that permanent tax rate was established. It has not changed since that occurred back in the mid-90s. So it's been that way ever since. And we've been able to manage the payment condition, which has been our primary goal. But then we've also had the benefit of being able to fund the pedestrian and biking improvement program for the last 10 years now or so. 10 years, is that right? Yeah. And so now we're kind of getting back to our roots and putting all of our eggs into the road maintenance basket. So at this point, the funding seems to be supporting the mission, but as we pointed out earlier, the costs are going through the roof, and we have the payment condition that's basically at its basement level now. We're trying to maintain a $5 million fund balance contingency so that we can pay the bills in the summer before the revenues come in the fall, so we have that cash flow. So we're right on the edge, I think, right now with where we're at with things.
So would that be similar to our public safety levies? We'd have to go to the people in this district and ask for an increase in the rate, and they would have to approve it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And when the district was first formed, it was formed but not funded, and it had to go back to the voters to be funded at a separate time. And it's never gone back to the voters since. It's been just this current model ever since it was formed. So we've been able to do everything so far with what we've had.
Well, it's because you're growing. The district is growing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay.
And the costs are going up.
Member Mills.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I know that there's more slides that they want to get to, so I'll keep this very short. As far as the map, has the map changed? And it would seem to me that the yellow, the urban unincorporated area, once that's built out, will be part of the adjoining cities, and so won't join this district. The district is pretty much set. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Right, yeah. Thank you.
And I'm encouraged by Chair Harrington's nod. Actually correct.
So I have a question. Can you go back to the slide of the miles treated? There we go. So it is impressive to me to see the very significant increases forecasted beyond 2026, but coupled with what you've demonstrated about the really high increases in costs and the fact that revenues are going to stay relatively flat, I'm wondering about the projected miles treated. Is that more aspirational and need-driven, or is it really a reflection of what the budget will allow in the future?
It's what the budget will allow, because the model that we're using provides some growth with, with our projected inflation and, the revenue that we're expecting. But the blue seems like a lot, which it is, but we can get a lot of miles treated with the soy seals, and we can get a lot of life out of those. So getting back to Commissioner Snyder's comment about, cost and being effective, soy seal is a fantastic tool that we can use to really solve a lot of problems with that. The reason why all of a sudden we're seeing this kind of uptick, though, in the work is because we did have a higher than expected PCI, and we were basically called the glide path, where we were managing its decline, and we were watching it happen, right? We knew it was going, we were projecting it, we were managing it, and now what's happened is we're at that bottom of the curve, and so now to maintain it, we're having to really prop it up, because if it does dip, then it does become more expensive over time. So that's why that's why you're seeing that, is because now we're having to keep it propped up, because once it starts to decline, it does decline faster.
So you were underspending when the PCI was high.
Correct.
That's the other part to answer, I think.
Right, and we were doing that on purpose, though, because we were funding the PBI, because we had the resources, so we were able to do multiple things. And we didn't want to go out so here's an example of kind of how we've changed our approach. So if we would go into a neighborhood, and this is back before the audit, we go into a neighborhood, and let's say there were 5 roads in the neighborhood. And those 5 roads, let's say 3 of those 5 roads were ready for a soy seal, but maybe 2 of them weren't, or maybe they were like 2 or 3 years out. We would just go ahead and soy seal those roads since we were there. We said, well, let's just go ahead and soy them all, be done with it, and then not have to come back to this neighborhood. So we were basically giving up 2 or 3 years of service life on those roads. Now what we do is, if there's 5 roads in a neighborhood and only 3 of them are ready to be soy sealed, we only soy seal 3. And so we were able to then extend the life of those roads and get a better value for that initial investment.
Right, and so I think what Commissioner Snyder teased out there is that funds have been diverted from the PBI program, the PED Bike Improvement Program, back into maintenance.
Correct.
Which URMDAC has endorsed, by the way, for the record, because we recognize maintenance is the most important part of URM's mission.
Right, and when the PBI was first introduced, we made it really clear, and I say we, the committee was very clear, that maintenance is the primary mission of why URMD is here. And when the time comes for maintenance to take the front seat again, then it would. And so now PBI has been paused, it's on the back burner, and maintenance is back in the forefront, which is why those numbers are back up. Okay.
Thank you. Why don't we let you continue on?
I think we've already given the whole presentation.
Well, there are a few slides left.
One of the programs in the ERMD is the Neighborhood Streets Program. This is a very popular program. It is for traffic calming. It's offered to residents on eligible streets who are troubled by livability issues related to speeding or cut-through traffic in their neighborhoods. Primary goals for the Neighborhood Streets Program are to discourage undesirable driver behavior, improve multimodal safety for pedestrians, bikes, and cars, and involve area residents in solving local traffic issues. That engagement is a really key part of the NSP program and is what drives the traffic calming that's installed in a neighborhood. The program works in 2 phases. Phase 1 is education and enforcement. We provide lawn signs, radar trailer placement, brush trims, and request speed enforcement from the SO, from the Sheriff's Office. We also support residents with communication to their neighbors, such as maybe a newsletter or just notifications of what's going on in the neighborhood. If Phase 1 measures prove ineffective, Phase 2 is installation of permanent traffic calming devices, such as speed feedback signs or curb extensions or speed cushions. The program expanded to include collectors with residential properties in 2020, which created a much higher volume of requests from the community. It also resulted in traffic calming plans that are larger and have a greater scope and are more expensive. For these reasons, we are proposing to increase the budget allocation from ERMD for this program from $200,000 to $300,000 in the coming fiscal year. In addition, this year, we've engaged the community to seek feedback on the neighborhood voting process, which is part of the Neighborhood Streets Program. Within a traffic calming, we've engaged the community to seek feedback on the neighborhood voting process within a traffic calming initiative via focus group and public comment with ERMDAC. An example is reducing the required affirmative votes for traffic calming installation in a neighborhood from 67% approval to a simple majority. Any recommendations ERMDAC has for changes to the policy will be referred to the Board of Commissioners for consideration and approval. And then some data for you. Number of traffic calming initiatives in fiscal year 23-24. There was one. It was large. It was on Rock Creek Boulevard with 5 speed cushions and 4 feedback signs. Number of yard signs provided in that fiscal year were 53. And you can see one of the lawn signs right there. They're really cute. We have 3 different kinds, all with slow little animals on them. And number of radar trailer placements were 108. You've heard some discussion about the pedestrian and biking improvement program.
Member Bob, do you have a question about that last slide? Thank you.
The farm building there, and then sweep to the left, and then again to the right. There's an intersection where the road comes in. I almost didn't make it this morning. 1 foot against a head-on collision. We were coming around at 40 miles an hour, and the guys turned 60 and went straight into that road. Is that in your jurisdiction, or who in the world could
It is. So
shut that road off?
Glencoe Road and Wren Road, that's the little.
Yeah, there's been, what my wife was telling me, sheriff's car was injured there, and we just about had a head-on. That would have been their speed and our speed. That'd be hitting a brick wall at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, those are both county roads, but they're not part of ERMD. They're both county roads, so they still get maintained by county staff.
So who does the signage or the idea to shut it off?
So we manage the signs there.
Okay.
We have a traffic engineering group, and they actually do the evaluation for the signs. They determine what signs need to be installed, and then it's our crews in the operations divisions that actually install the signs. So if you have an issue with that, we can certainly work on getting.
Oh, deal with it. Thank you. I just want to make sure which department it fell under.
This is the right spot.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Member Scott.
You mentioned a bit about the traffic calming initiatives. Do you do any kind of dynamic speed bumps or various other ideas along those lines to try to allow lower speed traffic to go unimpeded, but higher speed traffic would see a device?
Are you talking about the dynamic, that lift depending on your
There's a few different
speed?
versions of it, but yes.
No, we don't use those, though we would love to expand into, more, explore those kinds of options. They're pretty expensive. And so we stick to the basic options: speed feedback, signs, and speed cushions, curb extension.
Thank you.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about Pedestrian and Biking Improvement Program, which is the PBI program. This is the program, it started in 2011, so between 10 and 15 years. You can see 83% of the projects that were recommended by URMDAC and approved by the board have been constructed. So this program diverted some of those maintenance funds when the PCI was really high, and the funds were available, and there was a need and a request from the community to install, you have a great term for it, to shoehorn projects into neighborhoods, just small pedestrian projects that will allow for sidewalks or bicycle facilities in places with high pedestrian use. So this program took requests from the community and went through URMDAC and then approved by the board for project selection. The program was paused in January of this year. We still have a number of projects that need to be constructed, 10 specifically, in this year, and then 3 in future years. That's the plan. The project selection process historically was biennial. It started as an annual process, but changed in 2017. And again, we're focusing the funds on the core street maintenance needs instead of the PBI projects.
Chair Harrington.
It wasn't said earlier, so I just wanted to point it out here. By pausing this program, this is what has allowed more funding to go into the overlays and slurry seals in future years, as depicted on slide 3.
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you. The first election cycle in 2011 budgeted $750,000 for PBI projects, and the program peaked in 2019 with $3.75 million. Over the program's near 15-year span, 75 projects were funded for a total investment of $39.5 million. We anticipate starting construction on 10 of the projects in this coming fiscal year, with the remaining 3 planned for construction in 26-27. And one more program we have in the Urban Road Maintenance District is the Sidewalk Repair Grant Program. We launched this in September of 23. This is a program that provides reimbursement for homeowners who have repaired or replaced their sidewalks, the sidewalks adjacent to their house, which they are responsible for by statute. And so with this program, the property adjacent to the damaged sidewalk must be within the earned. Repairs must meet Washington County's road design and construction standards and be compliant with ADA. And only one reimbursement is allowed per property every 10 years. The property owner applies for the grant when they apply for the right-of-way permit to make the repairs. This is the second year of the program. It began, again, in fall 2023. And not knowing what to expect, we asked for a $200,000 budget allocation. This year, we're right-sizing the funding to $100,000 to be more realistic while still allowing for significant growth. Sidewalk work tends to be slow over the winter. By April 1st of 2024, there were 2 applications in process, not just sidewalk permit applications, but grant applications. This year, there were 7 by April 1st. We expect participation to continue to grow as the weather improves, as happened in its first year. And I can tell you it has. We've had 3 more applications for the grant since April 1st. The average reimbursement is $1,084.82. So the reimbursement is based on the applicant needs to submit contractor bids at the beginning of the process, and then they're determined eligible. And then at the end of the process, they submit their receipt. And so the reimbursement is 50% of the lowest amount of either the lowest contractor bid or the invoice that they actually paid, up to $2,000.
Mr. Chair, while we're on that point, before we get off too far, in my neighborhood, I don't have any sidewalks, but the people down the street have a lot that are very old, and some of them are, falling apart. When you send out people to check on the condition of the roads, do you contact people and say, hey, your sidewalk's falling apart, you need to remediate it, but also here's, this program, or what does the county do as far as sidewalks?
That's correct. So we don't go out looking for these necessarily. Oftentimes people like yourself will call us and say, hey, there's some damaged sidewalk, it's on my route, or whatever it might be. We send an inspector out, they evaluate it to see whether or not it meets the ADA specifications. If it does not, we have a notice of violation, which we send out, which is a form letter, which identifies what the deficiencies are. We describe what needs to happen. We let the people know that they need to get a permit from us to have the work done. And at that same time, we inform them about the grant. So we do share that information as a way to market it.
Now we come to revenues and expenditures. And in your budget book, you'll find this on page 475. Beginning balance in 2025 is just over 12 million, with incoming revenues of just over 7. And then total expenditures of $10,750,000, with a contingency of $8.5 million. That contingency is really, it's a $5 million contingency that we try to keep across all the years, with with 3.5 million on reserve for the future PBI projects that were going to be constructed in 26 and 27.
So even though we've paused the selection process for the PBI, we're still committed, and we've already programmed and allocated and earmarked the funds to finish construction for those who are already selected. So those will get finished out.
Which there are 13.
Right. We're just not going to select any more or commit to any more right now.
The minimum target contingency is $5 million to allow for timing of property tax deposits, unforeseen expenses, and cost overruns. The surface treatments in the list include overlay, slurry seal, and pavement repairs as well. And that wraps up our report.
Member Bob.
Thank you. On your incoming revenue, it seems a little small. Do you get any money from the state for gasoline tax?
So the road fund, which is the county's primary road maintenance funding source, does get money from our gas tax. The road fund is gas tax, vehicle registration fees, and then the motor carrier weight mile tax. And so ODOT collects all of those. The DMV, they collect at the state level. ODOT gets half of it, and then there's a very complicated formula that distributes the other half to the counties and the cities. So we do get a portion of that, but for ERMD, and we're just talking about ERM now, ERM's revenue source is only that 25 cents per thousand that comes from the assessed value on the property taxes. So that's the only ERM funding that we have. Now these roads are, some of these roads are eligible for other funds, so like the road fund, but ERM's funding source is only that 25 cents per thousand.
So you're getting shorted.
What now?
You're getting shorted this, some of the state funds that are trickled down. You don't make it to you.
No, we do. So the state.
How much is it?
How much do we get?
It just seems that the total income of, what, 7,000?
7 million.
Aha.
So the 7 million revenue, that is only for ERMD.
Okay.
And it's the only revenue source that ERMD has. We're only talking ERMD here today. So the road fund, which is, so we have a little over 400 miles inside of ERMD that we manage.
Mm-hmm.
We have 1,300 miles in the county that we manage. The road fund supports all of the roads within the county. ERMD only supports the roads inside the district. So this money is only, and we don't spend this money outside of ERMD. So we keep very close tabs on this, the color of this money, and it only goes to ERMD eligible roads.
Even within the district, it's only allowed to be used on certain roads.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fogg.
Thank you, Chair. Todd and Chair. Great presentation. I feel like this is one of the most straightforward presentations, ERMDAC every year for a budget process.
So you don't need us next year, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, check with Tom. I was, over the weekend, I was door knocking for democracy for some great candidates that are on the ballot. And to that end, happy election day and good luck to all the good candidates on the ballots. I was in the neighborhood of Cedar Mills area, and I noticed quite a bit of a ADA ramp, fancy, nice ones, brand new, it seemed like, because they were all painted and fresh. So I was wondering, is that ADA ramp process that happened in that neighborhood, is that something that's part of the is it part of this? And then the second part of that question I have is, where do we find information of neighbors who utilized the $2,000 grant? And what are some of the success stories or the applications for them that they put out that other neighbors could model? Is that something that is posted for the public to see? A neighbor that requested, and some of the I'm sure the maximum, so I'm sure some got less than 2,000, and so is that information public and available?
Sure, and I can answer all that. Well, you can answer the sidewalk, and I'll answer about the ramps. So, yes, we are funding ramp construction, ramp replacement with ERMD, as well as road fund dollars, because it's a county-wide need. We have about 20,000 intersections in the county that have ramps, so there's a lot out there. They cost about $15,000 to $20,000 per ramp, so it's really expensive, and that's per ramp, not per intersection. That's per ramp. So you take the 20,000 times 20,000. There's lots of zeros there. We approach it two different ways. We either go in and we do a retrofit on a ramp if the road's been paved recently, and we'll just replace the ramp. Or if we're going to be paving the road, that we know we're going to be paving a road, then we'll go in a year or two ahead of time, replace the ramp, and then come in and pave afterwards, because it's easier to pave to the ramp than to pave and then do the ramp afterwards. So those are going on simultaneously. And yes, ERMD is paying for some of those. And then Sherry can talk about the sidewalks.
I can tell you from what I witnessed, just walking around that neighborhood, I saw a lot of kids who were on their bikes, and a lot of the neighbors were walking, so you are making a difference.
Oh, good.
I saw people didn't need to cross over, and so it was a great, and wanted to celebrate, but I didn't know if it was an ODOT thing, and obviously we're reading budgets, so ERMDAC was at the forefront of
Yeah, no.
thinking about.
ERMD and Road Fund are both funding it, as well as all the capital projects, right? So when capital projects are built, they build them as well. And then you were going to talk about that.
Regarding the sidewalk grants, there is a website that explains in detail what is required for an application, but we haven't listed success stories. I'd be hesitant to put actual names, but it would be fun to put like this was the amount that was given or reimbursed in 2023, 2024, or even on a quarterly basis. I like that idea, and we'll incorporate that.
Perhaps even some before and after photos that don't describe where the property is exactly would be great. Member Mills.
Thank you. By the way, I was on ERMDAC for a couple terms years ago, and if this is the type of thing you like to talk about, they're public meetings, and you can talk about it for hours every month. I have a question that's a tax question, and I don't know who can answer this or just an idea. When we talk about the tax for ERMD, we say 25 cents, but it's not really 25 cents. It's 24.2456. Is there a reason why it's not 25 cents? And, I'm all for keeping taxes as low as possible. But I figured at the very high end, if it was raised, the price I would pay would be $1.74 extra or less. And if you multiply that by the 70,000 tax lots you have, you could do a better job at this. But I mean, ballpark, that's maybe $140,000 extra that could be used that would cost very little pain to the average taxpayer. Any thoughts from anybody on why we're not going with 25 cents exactly?
So my understanding is that when it got moved from, I think, a levy to being part of the permanent tax roll, there was a calculation done, right? And there's compression involved, and it gets very complicated very fast. And I'm not a tax person. I don't pretend to be one on TV. So I think that actual 0.2456 value is just what the calculated value was from that original levied amount. And so, and again, so the county wasn't going to round up and say, okay, well, we'll just take 25 cents. It was just, this is what it is.
That's the max allowed, I suspect.
Yeah.
By the measures.
But so is there a reason? I mean, we're going to make a decision today on what to recommend for approval. Could we go with 25 cents to raise a little extra money with hardly any pain to the taxpayer?
Change in the district.
So too.
So there would have to be a change in the district rate, and that is outside the purview of this budget committee. I will note just budget committee member Mills, the board last week, sorry, I'm losing track of weeks. So last Tuesday during the work session had the first conversation on revenue options. I appreciate the comments, concern, as we had talked about public safety, but looking at additional revenue options. So everything is on the table, but this would be an increase in the actual rate of the district, and that action cannot be taken as part of the budget committee.
So 0.2456 is the maximum that we can recommend for approval?
Correct.
Okay.
Good clarification.
Thank you.
Clarification.
Thank you again for the presentation. It's fantastic. Just to clarify, I think you expressed this earlier, that roughly $3 million in the contingency isn't contingency. It's the PBI items that are being paused. It wasn't clear until you made this presentation what that was for, so thank you for pulling that apart. Appreciate it.
All right, so, but for that, it would appear that the contingency is about flat year to year. That's an excellent point.
Keep it right at 5.
Member Mills, you have another quick, okay. Are there, your presentation is finished, correct? Are there
If
any
you're done, we're
other,
done.
are there any other questions for Sherry or Todd? Seeing none, you are excused. Thank you very much for an excellent presentation.
Thank you very much.
And this is great because otherwise, if we had any time left, I was going to have to do my song and dance. You don't want to
I'll
see
dress
that.
up for it too.
I'm all dressed up.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now we need to move into the public hearing. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair. And is there any member in the auditorium that didn't get a chance to sign up that wishes to provide public comment on either the ESP budget or the URMD budget?
Excuse me, Chair, could you actually gavel into the public hearing?
Thank you. The public hearing for the budget for the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District and Urban Road Maintenance District is called to order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Chair Harrington. Say again, is there a member of the auditorium that wishes to provide public comment on any of these proposed budgets you've heard? Just raise your hand, start coming forward. Not seeing any in the room. Would any member in the Zoom audience wish to provide public comment on these public hearings? We have one hand, Mr. Dale Feek. Mr. Feek, can you hear us?
I can, Kevin. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead for up to 2 minutes.
Dale Feek, Chair of the Washington County Citizen Action Network, Chair of the Budget Committee, County Commissioners, and others listening. I find the budget is putting the values into place based upon money. And so this deliberation that I'm listening to is an example of that. And I much appreciate the volunteers of the Budget Committee and also in particular the staff, Administrator Tanji Angie seems to be on top of all of it and can chime in or whatever when necessary. So I want to say thank you for all your work. I found it very informative to listen to the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol by the Under Sheriff and Sheriff Massey. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about what the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District is. I did a screenshot of that, of the ESPA Support Safe Communities and the graph on that. And the Support Safe Communities, that was interesting in the discussion. And the Adaptive Response Service, the training tactics, tools, and partnering with the community. Being a member of Forest Grove since 1966 and working with the sheriff, it's just very informative when you see how things work. So I just want to say thank you. But it's important to have training for those patrol officers, as my sheriff, Henry Ryman, our police chief, make sure you have good training for those people. I know you can't have as much training as you do for the sheriff, for the people that are sheriffs. But then they also overlay versus slurry. I found that interesting, especially in Forest Grove, since we do slurry and overlays. So anyway, it's informative. I'm in support of, and I appreciate the questions. Also, Jason Snyder being a former mayor, I found those very informative questions and comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Is there any other members attending via Zoom that wish to provide public comment? I'll give one last call to raise hands for any comments. Not seeing any additional comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Do any members of the committee have other questions or comments?
Can you close the public hearing officially? Thank you.
Public hearing is closed. Thank you for the coaching.
Just want to make sure we don't have to redo.
Member Bob.
It's probably for the overall budget. Oh, thank you. Significant amount of dollars that are under general funds or other in the in the budget. And I would like to see some kind of annotation of what other is, especially when it goes into the millions of dollars. So that's just a request for future budgeting. And also express my concern to the commissioners that are here. I really thank you for all the hard work you do, and especially all the meetings you attend. But one of the things is the direction we're going for Washington County is we're expanding, and from just a citizen standpoint, we're expanding, and yet we're cutting the budget, and that's really hard to take. A lot of people are asking me, how do we get into that mess in the first place? So accountability, and it's Chair Harrington. It's a hard thing to do, but you guys have got it, and I really wish you well. Thanks. That's the end of my comment.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, yes, Member Mills.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to make a motion unless somebody wants to discuss something else that they think.
I think we are ready for a motion.
Okay. I move to approve the fiscal year 2025-26 budget for the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District, ESPD, as proposed in the amount of $57,552,109, and to levy the ESPD permanent property tax rate of 0.6365 per $1,000 of assessed value, and improve the ESPD local option levy rate of 83 cents per 1,000 of assessed value.
I'll second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor? What do we do?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to move to the next one, sorry.
I think we have to do these one at a time. We have to do these one at a time, right?
Correct.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. Are we ready for a vote? All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
It appears unanimous. Any no's? Nope.
Keep doing that. No, do it. No. Any opposed?
Any opposed?
Great.
Seeing none. The motion passes unanimously.
Yay.
Got that? Okay. Okay, we have one more. Would someone like to make a motion? Yes.
I move to approve the fiscal year 2025-26 budget for Urban Road Maintenance District, URMD, as proposed in the amount of $19 million and change, and to levy the URMD permanent property tax rate of 0.2456 per $1,000 of assessed value.
I'll second that.
Point of order, do we need to precisely state that number?
Okay, I will reread it.
Yeah, thank you.
I move to approve the fiscal year 2025-26 budget of the Urban Road Maintenance District, URMD, as proposed in the amount of $19,213,564, and to levy the URMD permanent property tax rate of 0.2456 per $1,000 of assessed value.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'd just like to say, Mr. Chair, I know it doesn't apply to this, but in future years, if they could raise it, I don't like to raise taxes when they don't need to be, but raising it up to exactly 25 cents, and it sounds like the board has to do that. That small amount of extra taxes could really go a long way in this district. But of course, that has no bearing on today's vote, but I'd just like to get that on the record and encourage future boards.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes unanimously. Our agenda is completed. We are adjourned.
Thank you. Woo-hoo.